Gentlemen, another episode of the Ask Me Anything. I'll be running solo today, unable to work with Sean and Ryan, so you'll get me, but we'll get right into this and field some good questions. We are going to be answering questions from the Foundry, which is our system for the Iron Council. To learn more about the IC, go to orderofman.com/Iron Council. And of course, we'll also, if I have enough time, be fielding questions from our Facebook group. So if you haven't connected with us there, go to facebook.com/group/orderofman. I'm a little bit stressed today. And hopefully, I don't know, hopefully this goes well. And we at least have a one-sided conversation around some of these questions that guys submitted and at least generate some thought. My ask is, whether you're watching this on YouTube or you're downloading the podcast or whatever, reach out, continue the conversation, have the conversation in Facebook. Love to hear your guys' feedback and input. But most importantly, we should be having these conversations all the time. And Ryan and I mention this all the time, how much we get edified just by having the conversation. And so we appreciate you guys submitting your questions and creating the thoughts and the discussions that we have on the podcast. All right, first question we're going to field from Mark Goblowski. His question is, what is the meaning of life? He had, of course, put the serious question on there a little bit, maybe because I'm assuming, Mark, that we would think, that's a silly question. I actually think it's a profound question. So what is the meaning of life? I used to look at this drastically different over the years. I approached it as a kid and as a young man from the perspective that the meaning of life was tied to my religious beliefs, and that I just held on to that definition and had that be mine. Since then and through the years, I've come to my own conclusion that that life is, and I've accepted this idea that life is actually without meaning. And that's part of our jobs, to decide what we are going to let it mean. I was thinking about how to answer this question earlier. If we asked what was the meaning of life for George Washington, his answer would be different than a lot of us, of course. The meaning of life for a man that has focused a lot of attention on his children and showing up powerfully as a father could be different than a man that doesn't have children or never had the opportunity to get married and have kids. The meaning of his life could be drastically different. And so I actually think the meaning of life is to be determined by us. And I don't think there's a right and a wrong to it. I think it's what we decide what it means. And part of that has to do with the hope that we have in this world, or around the impact that we want to leave in it. So there's my answer. The meaning of life is for all of us to decide and create for ourselves. Eric Page, my wife keeps asking when the Order of Women starts up. Eric, we're going to have to get back to your question since Ryan's running not on the podcast today. So I'll try to flag this so we can get it into a future episode. We do get this question quite a bit. And so I kind of want to give Ryan a chance to answer that. So Daniel Castleberry, I've come to realize that I've been controlling in my relationship with my kids and wife and often get highly stressed when things don't go a certain way. What techniques or advice do you have to let things go and not be so stressed about the little things? I have a certain routine that I try to follow daily. And when the kids or the wife throw a wrench in it, I end up in a very bad place mentally. So Daniel, there's a couple things that I would consider. The first is I have a tendency to get disrupted, and the controlling of things end up becoming more important to me if I'm out of integrity in my life or in my day. So if I go to the office and I'm not showing up powerfully and getting the things done that I know I should be getting them done the way they were meant to be done, and I'm not feeling good and having self-confidence with how the day goes, then I look to control the things when I get home even more so. It's my way of trying to have order in my life, because earlier in the day, I didn't have that order. So I would first look at where your level of integrity is, if there's some integrity gap occurring, and how much the earlier part of your day, perhaps maybe at work, is causing stress that's leading into your personal life, causing you to like over exaggerate the importance of certain things with the wife and the kids and the family as a whole. That's one. Second, expectations. We have a tendency to not let expectations go, and that's rooted in our judgment of those expectations being right and wrong. So as an example, if I look at my teenage boys, I have these, I have strong opinion in regards to how they should show up in the world. I have these expectations of them. What happens when they don't do those things? What happens when they make mistakes? What happens when they constantly show up maybe in a way that's not ideal? My natural tendency is the way they're showing up is wrong. The way I think they should show up is right. And my expectations aren't being met. I'm upset. And instead of dealing in reality, I almost go like somewhat of a victim mentality of, I shouldn't have to deal with this because the way or the things that they're doing are wrong, and I just make them wrong for showing up that way. And instead, what I should be doing is, well, that was my hope, that was my expectation, but that's not reality. And so now let's deal with what is so in the current circumstance. And so letting go is super critical when it doesn't meet our expectations. And it's critical. Why? Because it doesn't matter whether your expectations were met. The reality of it is you're dealing with reality, not what you think it should have been. It doesn't matter. And one of the most powerful ways to do that, at least for me, is to realize that I'm labeling these things as right and wrong. And who am I to say it should be this way versus another way? My wife has a tendency to care more about experience and going and doing things. And I care more about order. Hey, is the garage cleaned up finally? Do we have work to do? We should be doing that work instead of playing. And her opinion is play. And it's really easy to say, I'm right? Because you should always work first and get your shit done before you go play. But I have a tendency, or I have to remind myself sometimes, is what's more important? Experience with our kids? Enjoying the time that we have? Am I right, or is she? Or is it neither? And I'm just having to deal with reality and letting go of that judgment of what's right and wrong. I would focus on those. That might be a little bit deeper, Daniel, than what you're looking for. Maybe you're looking for like techniques and tactics, but that's at the root of it, man. The root of our inability to let go of things is a lack of clarity of what's really important and dealing in reality, probably more than anything else. The other thing I'd maybe suggest, maybe you don't have enough big enough problems going on in life. And so you're blowing up the little things, and they are little, but they seem so big because that's the only stress you have. It's amazing how much clarity we get when we go to like a funeral, for instance. All those petty things that we seem to get upset about kind of go away. When you have a buddy that's struggling, maybe with his marriage or with other areas of his life, it kind of puts things in perspective. So I'd focus on getting that perspective right. And I've seen guys, I've even done this, where I'd come home from work and in my journal, I'd grab my journal and I'd read kind of what I call my ethos. And I'd read that before I go into the house, right? We've shared stories on the podcast. I don't remember who the guest was that like would go hang on a pull-up bar for 5 minutes, or as long as he could before he went in. The other thing is visualization. How do you want to be remembered and seen as a father and as a husband? Maybe think through that right before you walk through the door. What kind of level of excitement do you have when you see your kids? Are you in a positive mood? Are you joyful and happy? And if you can't deal with these petty things, these little things, what are you teaching your kids to get stressed out about? Same thing. They're not going to be very resilient if you're not. So maybe even focus on areas to become more resilient. Chris Kroom, what part does corporate ecology play in restructuring one's life towards better goals? What is the most essential underlying principle in building that ecology? In other words, if you are coming into the Iron Council and using the strategy around the 4 quadrants, does the environment you surround yourself in outside of your social network matter? And what is the most important to start with? So there's a lot there, Chris. So that first question, does the environment you surround yourself in, outside your social matter? Hell yeah, it matters. We don't live in vacuums. And I'm going to totally get on a soapbox here, Chris. So like, this isn't me projecting at you. I hate this mentality that works this thing over here. And then I have my life and I have my social, but like works this other thing. Guys, if that's for you, like that's how you see work, you have a shitty job and you work probably for a shitty company. The reality of it is it's intertwined. How I show up at work affects how I show up at home. How I show up at home affects how I show up at work. A sense of accomplishment I get from my job. The people I work with that I choose to band with, these aren't team members. These aren't employees. These are my band of brothers and sisters in a work environment, committed to a long-term strategy of leaving a lasting impact for our clients, to make a difference in the world and what we do, to show up powerfully, to stand for one another, to help them grow and succeed in life so they can show up even more powerfully for their families and their social circles and their communities. If your company doesn't have that level of clarity, holy shit, it's a 9 to 5 and you hate your job and you don't find purpose and meaning in what you're doing. Time to figure that out, because they're not different. How I am as a man and how I show up here at the office should be no different than how I show up at home. The talents I bring to the office are the talents I bring home. This organization that I work for supports me. They support my family. They should care about my family. My boss should know my wife's name and my kids and know what's going on in my life. Not so they can micromanage. Why? Because them being a steward over me as a manager should be rooted in what? Caring. And you can't care for anybody and give a shit about their career if you don't know them. So your environment that you put ourselves in, or that we put ourselves in at our jobs, hell yeah, it matters. And if it's not ideal for you, change it up. Now, maybe some of you guys are like, oh, it would be easy to say, well, stop being a fucking victim. Sorry, I shouldn't be dropping it. Like, stop being a victim. If you don't like it, go create it. If you can't create it yet because you don't have the necessary skills, then get the skills. Like, figure it out. We need to stop being victims of who we work for and like, oh, I work for this company. Dude, then leave. Leave the company that is a horrible company to work for. And then you go create the company that's amazing to work for. Or you go find the company that's amazing to work for. Chris, full transparency, I have no idea what corporate ecology is. I'm assuming we're talking about like culture and whatnot. And I'm based upon the question, I'm assuming I'm pretty close, right? And how much does that play a role in my life and my goals? A huge part. Of course it is. And the more I can get that aligned to how I am and how I show up in the world and supporting my personal life and vice versa, the better off I am. So I think it's essential, not required, but would make a very lasting impact and would make a really big difference. So if you don't have that on the corporate side, I would suggest that you go find it or you go create it. Kaylin Flynn, when speaking to men about the IC, I've encountered some who've heard of it or even follow Order of Man, but appreciate an overview of what it is. Monthly topics, channels, and teams. For men on the fence, it would give them a breakdown. Would you not want us sharing anything in particular prior to a man taking action and joining? No, Ryan's been pretty, we talk about the battle plans on the podcast quite a bit. We talk about, how's this? We need to do a better job at summarizing it so you guys can better communicate it when people ask about what's this man club that you're part of and that you have weekly calls with. So on the Iron Council side, yeah, we need to step up our game, make that super clear. Now, for those listening that are like, well, geez, Kip, why don't you just tell us? Ultimately, this is what we're looking at. The mission of the Iron Council, this isn't official, but the mission of the Iron Council is to equip men with the tools, systems, processes, and brotherhood necessary to leave a positive, lasting impact in their personal lives, in their families, in their communities, and ultimately affecting the world. That is what we are focused on. Now, how do we do that? The Iron Council, roughly, we probably have maybe 1,200 members globally across the globally. Those guys join the IC, eventually get assigned a team, a battle team in which they're working on, they're holding each other accountable, they're focused on progressing in multiple areas of their life so they can show up more powerfully, and they stand for each other to show up that way. In summary, that's really what we're doing. Now, you could get into logistics like, oh, our system has these, but in the end, what we're really doing is we're helping men band together, rise together, and improve. Nathan Blaser, what are some things you might consider when looking at a career change into the public service, such as becoming a firefighter or a police officer? I'm currently working a comfy office job, but I feel like my ultimate calling is some sort of public service. I just want to make sure I don't jump in without fully weighing that kind of move for me and my family. Nathan, I think this question is applicable regardless of if it's public service or not, right? So let's just address this question. How does one make a career change in a way that doesn't affect their family in a negative way, right? So now, just want to make sure I don't jump without fully weighing that kind of move. So how do you weigh it? How do you see that transition? Well, you ask the people that's already done the transition. So I'd focus on, from your perspective, get to know some police officers, right? Get to know firefighters, get to know these different careers that you're interested in, and ask them how they made the transition. Ask them, what is that job like? Do ride-alongs. I have a bunch of buddies that are firefighters. I could call them up right now, and police officers, and I could just do ride-alongs and get a really good, how many times do we get an actual ride along on a possible job or a career that you'd like? So find those individuals that are already there and ask and work through it and ask the questions of, what don't you like? What do you like? What are the greatest benefits and the payoff? Why do you keep doing it? Is it difficult? What are some areas that causes you to second question this career path? And I'd really focus on that. And even for you younger guys, this goes for everybody, man. If someone said, hey, Kip, I really want to get into, IT consulting, or I really have a passion for people and culture in the corporate setting, and I'd love to get your opinion. Of course, I'd be willing to share. I'd want to share. So ask the people that are already there and get the feedback from them. And then work on a plan to get there. And a lot of those individuals already have the plan, or they know the best plan to get there. So I would just ask around. Charles Robinson, I'd like to know yours and Kip's experience with battling mediocrity when you're on an upward trajectory and those you love around you are content being average despite your outstanding example. Oh, man. I mean, I don't want to make too many assumptions, Charles. So I think for some of us, we ask this question because we care and we love those in our life and we don't want to see them mediocre. But part of my question also wonders is how are you battling mediocrity because those around you are mediocre and aren't getting after it? Yeah, I think that's your question. Sorry, guys, I'm just thinking out loud here. Yeah, that's your question. All right. How do we battle mediocrity when we're on an upward trajectory, but those around us are content with being average? Be you. I would think more, get connected to the why and the reason, the mission and your vision of what your upward trajectory is all about, and focus your attention there. Just focus on that. That way, when we have struggles and we have issues, you rise above them and you move on. And you don't need everyone else to be getting after it because you see the bigger picture. It's clear to you. You understand the impact of you leveling up is, and you're willing to push through whether those around you are not. Now, here's the sad part is sometimes that's going to be lonely. You might have friends and buddies that are like, hey, let's go out and let's go have fun. And it's like, no, I got a commitment. I go to bed at 10. I work out at 5 a.m. in the morning. And that's the price that you're going to have to be willing to pay and give up kind of some of the fun that comes with mediocrity and focus on delayed gratification and focus on doing the difficult things that maybe they're unwilling to do. And so it might be a little lonely. So just kind of keep that in mind. So connect to your bigger why. And then start finding other people that are on the same path as you to be banding with, and that could be there to support you. Now, with that said, if you're looking at how do I influence them a little bit, you share, you show up joyfully and excited, not from a position of trying to change people, but genuinely man, I'm so excited. I lost this weight. I'm killing it. I'm getting faster. I've got this race. I'm so excited. Share and let them see that light of being on a path that's positive. Let them participate and support you by you sharing, right? You don't have to go into a closet and no one knows about it and you're in a dark place. No, share what you're about and what you're doing, but be okay with them not doing it because it's got to be their call. Start trying to find other people to band with, get connected to their bigger purpose and why. So that way you can rise above those things. Charles, hopefully that answers your question. Charles Robinson. Charles, you get 2 questions in here. Come on, man. When it's not easy to walk away because it's someone that you love and want the best for. I would get clear on why it's not easy. And for me, it hasn't been easy. There's a level of discomfort on my side to walk away from someone because of how I feel and my concern that how they'll view me and et cetera. So there is a little element of selfishness when you need to walk away from someone that you love. But I think the key to this is having empathy for them, but getting very well connected to, we all have to decide things on our own. You know, I am, as a weak analogy, from a corporate perspective, you don't want your employees to execute on a task and do something because they're being compliant, right? When they're doing it just because you asked them to and they're just trying to be compliant, their success in that task will be mediocre because they're only doing it because you asked them to. And the minute they have difficulty or they reach roadblocks, they'll throw their hands up and it was never their idea. And I never liked this idea to begin with. And I knew it was the wrong idea and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But when we make a decision for ourselves, when we are bought in and committed to what we're doing, we show up in a very powerful way. And we talk about this all the time in the Iron Council. We're lighthouses, right? You can't force people to do things. Now we could, but it goes back to what I'm kind of saying. It's compliance, right? You don't want compliance. You want people to figure things out for themselves and be committed to what they're doing. And so I would just focus on like getting clear to that, like that's how it works. And so you staying around, right? You staying engaged in this relationship that you need to quote unquote walk away from is not what's best for them. What's best for them is for them to figure things out on their own. Now, I don't know what our definition of walk away is, right? Maybe it's removing someone from your life. For some reason or another, but I don't know, Charles, I guess I need more detail, but have empathy. Yeah, I was at the flying back from Boston yesterday and I was just looking at people just walking by and I was looking at the sky and he was just walking by and it was, I don't even know if I can explain this, but I just look at that guy and I'm like, that guy's me. But yeah, he was just a human that walked by and he was just this body but that was a person with a soul and awareness and concerns and stresses and unique talents and all these amazing things. And he was just a person that if died today, I'd be not affected by, wouldn't even know. So get connected to having empathy and seeing people as whole and complete. Maybe not on the ideal path right now, or they're just learning and they're still letting life teach them some lessons, and just really get connected to that way of thinking. And then get clear on why you're walking away and what does that mean? What are the reasons? Why are you doing it? All right. Michael Nan-Ness, tips or suggestions on how to make yourself more valuable in the marketplace so you can level up and make more money when you don't have much skill or education to lean back on, nor any money to pay for a course or a guru to learn something new because it's so tight every month. Okay, so limited funds to go get an education per se, or learning and trainings, but making yourself more valuable in the marketplace. So here's the deal. Like, books are virtually free, right? Like, we can go to a public bookstore. You can download even Audible books from your local library. You can read books. And there's a lot, especially in the tech space, that you can learn. Sign up for trials and demos and all kinds of free software and other things to learn. You could even use the computers at the library to learn. There are ways to learn for sure. And I would focus on not thinking you need the opportunity placed before you and the job placed before you for you to level up, get experience, and then make good money. I actually think that you could do enough research and growth on your own to really set yourself up to get into an entry-level position. Because what that tells me, Michael, if you came to me and you're like, oh, Kip, I want a job in consulting, and we look at your resume, it's like 0 experience, but you came to me with that answer. And it's like, hey, I've been running a tight ship. I didn't have the money to go to boot camps and go to college or whatever, but I have self-taught. I've read these books. I've been doing this. I've been learning these things, and learned them well enough that you have an opinion about stuff. What does that tell me? That you are hungry. Oh, you're hungry and you are humble. One of the top 2 traits that we look for when we hire people, because possibilities become endless when we're hungry and we're humble and we care, and you are caring by putting in the effort to learn and grow. So I would focus on growth. Focus on learning whatever it is that you want to learn, whatever career path you want to go into, and get passionate about it. Have some conviction around it, so much that you could talk to it passionately, and that's going to resonate on potential job interviews. And then I'd focus on whether it's side hustling to get some experience, or you may have to, jump in entry level, or even look at paid internships. I know they don't pay as high, but maybe they pay close to what you're doing today. And that might be an avenue for you to get some experience as well. Gabriel Rosenblum, how do you think is the biggest issue of our country is facing? Oh, wait. Oh, sorry, guys. Hold on. Oh, yeah. Sorry. What do you think is the biggest issue our country is facing? Transgender movement, the promotion and admiration of criminality, illegal immigration, divorce, fatherless homes, etc. I think you know the answer. It's fatherless homes. It's single parent homes. I actually think that addresses the other issues. Yeah. Statistically, it probably does drastically. Dr. Warren Farrell's book, The Boy Crisis, breaks down tons of the percentages of the probability of kids going to jail, being suicidal, depression, etc., when there's not a father in the home. And if you're a father that's in the home, don't think that you're the father in the home and you've already addressed your part of the share. You got to show up powerfully in the home. So don't get, don't pass that off oh, I'm showing up, I'm there, but I'm a dick. Be active father in the home. I think that's the biggest issue. I think the other issue, Gabriel, is that I'd put there is fatherless homes. The next I'd put victim mentality, the lack of ownership, and the belief that it is within your control. And then the last would be identity crisis. We are so wrapped up in thinking our value as a human is based upon popularity, based upon being quote unquote special, and less about the actions and the results that we get in this world. And people go running around you know, thinking they're valuable by virtual signaling, or I'm part of this class or whatever. It's like, no, you're not. You have the potential. You are valuable based upon your possibility and your potential. But until you act on it, you're contributing zero. And I would even argue, and this may be harsh, so I'm going to say it anyway, who cares? If you're not contributing in a positive way, then you're taking away. Not a contributing zero, you're bringing other people down. And I don't think people see it that way. I even think in corporate America, I think I get a job and I'm in this department, and they like latch onto this like mediocrity of like, well, I'm valuable because I have a show. What results have you shown? What the hell are you doing about it? Pride flags. I'm going to go on a tangent. They drive me mad. Why do they drive me mad? Here's the argument. The argument will be, well, Kip, by raising it, it's about the kids, they're suicidal, and this is our way of saying that we like support them, right? And that we care. Really? So let me get this clear. If you are suicidal, what we want to do is perpetuate the idea of seeking outside approval as a form of validation for your intrinsic value to the world. Really? Is that what we teach our kids? Oh, son, you're depressed? Oh, well, let's try to get more likes on social media. And you know, and all these people are liking your posts. So see, son, you're meaningful, you're valuable, you're loved. No, you're not. And those people hitting the like or raising the flag, but yet don't know the person, don't know the individual that's depressed, doesn't know anything about them. They're not doing shit. You're not providing any value. If you guys hate something, if you don't like something, if you think something should be changed, regurgitating social media posts is not the way you do it. You care, you know, in this conversation, Gabriel, we're talking about fatherless homes. You care about fatherless homes. If you guys are in agreement with me, you're like, yeah, Kip, that's a big problem. Awesome. How many boys in your neighborhood don't have a father in the home? And what are you doing to help? Are you coaching a little league team? Are you coaching a team? Oh no, only if my son's on the team. Why not? If this is important to you, why aren't you doing it? We can run our mouths all day, man. I'm just on this tangent. Like, I'm so tired of everybody like saying they give a shit about something, but yet doing nothing about it. So I would challenge even myself. This goes both ways. What am I doing about it? We got to get off the bench and actually start playing the game and get on the court and make a difference and not just yell from the bench. That's not how it works. Ryan O'Hare, last question. Kip, a lot of your AMA answers include a commentary on how you show up and the energy and the vibe you are projecting on your family. I've had a feeling that I need to work on this. And this past weekend, I got some visibility into what it is like from the other side. Can you and Mickler please provide some techniques you use to project a positive energy, especially when you're cranking on the tasks around the house? How do you catch yourself if you are projecting frustration and stress? I've thought about taking the Snow White advice, whistle while you work, but my whistling might be more nails on chalkboard and less dad fun to be around. I like it, Ryan. And let me approach the answer from the perspective of I am the hypocrite at most. I don't do this very well. I do this from time to time. I'm aware of it, and I struggle with this. And I don't know any better way of saying it than when I do this best, it's when I let go. I let go of what was stressing me out earlier in the day. I'm letting go of the house not being perfect. I'm letting go of expectations, and I am just present. And I just focus on being present. And I can be present and clean the house. So what do? House is a mess, right? House is a mess. I come home, wife's out doing something. I want it clean. My default mentality is like, hey, pick up your shit. And you know what I mean? Start yelling at people. Kids, really quick, everyone come in the family room. So we all sit on the couch. All right, guys, really important. I want the house clean. So what do we need to do? Let's make a list. What needs to be clean? Kika goes, oh, the kitchen's there. Okay, awesome. Dishes, I'm going to put that on the list. We're going to make a list of all the things. All right. Do we think we can get these all done? Like almost like a challenge, like Mission Impossible, you know, even like get quiet. Do we think we can do this? Do we think we can get this before mom gets home? No, I don't think we can. All right. What do we think we can accomplish? And then what should our reward be? Right? Kind of back to what I was talking about earlier. We don't want them doing it out of compliance. We want them to do it because they want to. How do we get them to want to clean the room? And for kids, it is make it fun. Now, the problem is it going to take twice as long, Ryan, to clean the house? Yeah, it is. It would have been a lot quicker if you just got that shit done. You walked around like a pissed off old man and yelled at your kids, probably. But what's the long-term gain? And I got this from Ryan years ago, right? Do you want the room clean? Is that really the plan? Is that the goal? The answer is no. The long game is to teach your children the value of taking care of their things, being clean, being organized, and the value of doing something that they don't want to do and reach the delayed gratification of accomplishing something that was originally not something fun. That is the game, right? That's the long-term strategy that we're going for. So maybe pause, focus on why do I care? Let go of the expectations, focus on, all right, what am I trying to accomplish here? And it's not cleaning the house, even though that's how I feel by default. And then figure out a way to make it fun and be playful with it. I'm a music guy. I blast music, you know, maybe like, hey, clean the house. Everyone has to clean the house using the hoverboard, or like, I don't know, something silly like scooters or whatever, right? Or something, and or come up with a reward of what you're all going to go out and get ice cream once the house is all clean. Make it about pleasing mom, about serving someone else, not serving you, but serving mom and making her happy, how excited she's going to be. There's some ideas. Gentlemen, hopefully these questions resonate with you guys. I know it's not as fun when it's solo without Sean or Ryan, but we make do. We've never missed an episode. Ryan takes huge pride in us honoring that commitment. And so you guys got me today, but appreciate the questions. Hopefully they resonated. Continue the conversation, right? If you didn't like one of these, ping me and let's chat it out more. Or if you want to get someone else's point of view, send them the podcast, say, hey, listen to this question at this point in the video, and have the conversation with someone else. But you guys are listening for a reason, obviously. There's value in having these conversations and having these thoughts for us to consider. Not that they're right, not that they're wrong. It's really around our path of trying to improve. Until Friday field notes later this week, take action and become the men you were meant to be.